Nintendo 64 Fun Time.
What is up, YouTube? Nintendo 64 Fun Time here, coming back at you with another good video today. But first of all, I want to do a few shout outs. I've had a bunch of new subscribers to my channel lately, and if you guys are watching, if you guys subscribed in the last month or so, thank you so much. I appreciate every single one of you who clicked that subscribe button. Another big shout out I have is for Isha Gaming, just for her support of my channel and giving me shout outs in some of her videos. It's gotten a lot of recognition as far as people coming over for subscribers, so I just appreciate that. So what are we talking about today? Something that I've mentioned in a bunch of videos but never actually had a full-on video about, which is actually kind of surprising because it's something that I absolutely love. Today we are talking about the EverDrive 64. The EverDrive series is made by Krikzz, and he does an extremely good job making this product. It's actually been around for quite a long time. There's been a few other people who've tried to do something like this, but not up to the caliber of what Krikzz puts out. It is absolutely amazing. He does everything from the Nintendo 64 to turbo cards for the TurboGrafx 16, to handhelds, the Game Gear and the Game Boy. So anything cartridge based, pretty much Krikzz makes an EverDrive for. So what is an EverDrive? An EverDrive is a way to play games off your hardware of your real system, your Nintendo 64, your NES, your SNES, whatever, on an SD card that plugs in to a cartridge that is custom made, and there's a custom board in here, and it runs your games off of your Nintendo or whatever system you're playing on, the actual hardware. What does this mean? It means we're not emulating. Now, emulators have come a long way, and I realize that there's a way to play games that some of us don't have access to, ROMs or hack games or homebrew games. This is a way for us to not have to emulate those and to actually play them on our real hardware, which means they're going to run absolutely perfectly. If you've seen my Nintendo 64 Mini video before that, I mentioned quite a few times that Nintendo 64 emulation is really hard to do. Now you guys may think, well, I have a Raspberry Pi, or I've seen people emulate with no issue. There are a few good emulators out there for the Nintendo 64, but as far as the audio quality, as far as the colors and how well the game runs, it's not there. As somebody who plays Nintendo 64 all the time, I would easily be able to tell if there is emulation going on. So another thing that it does that I really appreciate is I can take all of my games. Now I have tubs and tubs of Nintendo 64 games. This is just one tub of many tubs. And I can take all of those games and put them on a single cartridge. What does that mean? It means that I don't have to lug around tubs of games when I go take my 64 to my friends' houses. I can just take my EverDrive. It's very portable, and all my games are right here. They're very accessible, and it's just very, very cool. Now, there's a few versions out right now that Krikzz does. This is the version 2.5. There is a version 3, and I'll tell you the differences here in a second. So this is the 2.5. What it means is there's no battery backup in here. So as far as the library compatibility, there's pretty much 100% compatibility with all games, period, on this. They work with no problems whatsoever because there's no emulation. You're literally playing it right off the Nintendo 64. The Nintendo 64 works and you have your cartridges backed up onto the EverDrive, it'll work. The only one that doesn't work is going to be your Japanese Animal Crossing. The reason why is that uses the internal battery backup to keep time. So without this having a battery in it, it can't keep that time, so it won't do your Animal Crossing saves. other than that, that's pretty much it. It plays everything else. So what it comes in the version 3. So the version 3 will have a USB port on the side, so if you want to develop games and develop new stuff for the Nintendo 64, you have that option. It is more expensive to get the version 3, so I kind of went on the cheap and got the 2.5. The only other thing you have to do if you get this, if you have a game that requires you to save onto the cartridge, say Zelda Ocarina of Time, you just need to hit reset, which will save it to the backup memory of the EverDrive, instead of just powering the system down after you save. You have to remember to hit reset or else it won't save it to your cartridge, which, you know, once you kind of get used to it, it's really not that big of a deal. So another thing what's great about the EverDrive is preservation of games. The reality of cartridge-based gaming, or any games in general, whether it's disc-based or whatever, games degrade, games go away, batteries die. Once the game cartridge kind of dies or the battery dies, your saves or whatever, they're gone, and they're gone forever. Now, replacing a battery in a cartridge is really not a hard thing to do. You take it apart with a special screwdriver and replace the battery. It literally takes 3 minutes. But the problem is once your save is gone, it's gone. You can't get it back. And my cartridges are starting to do that. They're starting to lose battery, and I've been replacing them, which is no big deal, but it sucks to have it, you know, your saves be missing. And I like to preserve those games. You know, if you're 100% an old school game, I like to save it. So what happens is when you save it onto the cartridge, it's a digital save. What you can do is you can actually take it off your SD card, put it on your computer, put it on a hard drive. You have your save backed up forever. You dump your ROMs onto your computer from your cartridges, and your games are saved digitally forever. You don't have to worry about the cartridges themselves dying or breaking or going, you know, whatever. I like having my cartridges. I prefer to play with my cartridges. Just the feeling of putting a game in and playing it and not being able to just go on here and just do whatever you want. I like that. So I still like collecting the cartridges. I still like the cartridges, but this is video game preservation, and I appreciate that more and more every day as my cartridges, as my CDs are getting scratched and dying and stuff. Video game preservation for me is very important. Another cool thing about this is it's region free. If you look on the back here, and this doesn't go just for the Nintendo 64, this one goes for every one that Krikzz puts out. They're region free. Now the easiest thing to tell with that with the Nintendo 64 is this straight bar here. With the PAL ones and then the you know, the States cartridges and stuff like that, there's a slot in a different spot. Now you can mod your Nintendo 64, but you have to cut pieces of plastic off. It's way harder to do, not harder, but you still have to cut stuff, but it's a little bit harder to do than the SNES without just having to break off that tab. You actually have to saw a little piece of your Nintendo 64 off. So region free. Another thing on the inside, you can't see it even if I get it really close, but there's a little toggle switch in here, and you can switch it back and forth between PAL, hardware, or NTSC, which is really cool. So this is basically a region free device, and it's awesome. The interface that you do when you boot up this is really cool. You can have custom backgrounds and stuff. It's really easy to select what game you want. Depending upon the size of the game, you know, it takes anywhere from 1 second to like 3, 4, 5 seconds maybe to load the game if you have some of those really big 32 meg games. But yeah, this is something that's super important to me, and I play a lot of my games on it to preserve my save states, like I was saying. Now, I got mine directly from Krikzz. The shipping is a little bit longer for me over here in the States. If you are in the States, you can get them from Stone Age Gamer, but they are quite a bit more expensive. They come with a special case and some custom stuff, so that's why they're a little bit more expensive. But I got mine directly from Krikzz, a little bit cheaper, and it's awesome. It's worked flawlessly for me. So it's just something that I absolutely appreciate. If you are super into gaming and you want to save stuff, this is not a bad thing. A lot of people, or purists or whatever, I have to play my cartridge, I have to do this. This is not a bad thing. This is a good thing for preservation. As long as you view it that way, as long as that's how you approach a device like this, that's awesome. And I've been playing GoldenEye hacks on this. I've been playing some translations. The Sin and Punishment video I did, I played on this and it was a translated version of it. Just playing that kind of thing is absolutely amazing, and playing it on real hardware with your actual controller. So that's my rant about the EverDrive 64. The whole EverDrive series is amazing, not just the Nintendo 64 one, but the whole line. If you have any sort of cartridge-based system, I definitely recommend you going to Krikzz webpage, checking them out. You are going to spend about $100 on whatever one you buy, but it's absolutely worth it. So check it out. I stand by this. I'm not sponsored by this at all, but this is something that I totally stand by and totally support, and I think this is really important for game preservation. So anyway, I hope you liked it. I've been wanting to talk about the EverDrive for a really long time. I just haven't had the time to do it. So there you go. Nintendo 64 fun time. Be nice, stay positive, always be gaming. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter, and if you want to, press that like and subscribe button at the bottom, and I always appreciate it. Thank you much. Always be gaming.